Today, in an unexpected twist, we're gonna try out the world of plant-based.
For me?
This is one of the dishes I made while I was on silent retreat for that month. Probably the 5th or 6th night I did as a dinner, served with a couple other things too.
It's gorgeous.
I think you're gonna love it.
I'll make one of my neighbors happy. This isn't one of those fast dinners. This is one of those thoughtful preparations. You look so beautiful today. You look so beautiful.
Lentils.
And I'm gonna use these baby green ones.
And I'm always giving the lentils a quick rinse.
While I prep up the veg, I'm gonna let them sit in 1 cup of water. Set that aside.
An onion. Bang out the veg prep quick. Courgette or zucchini. I'm gonna slice these lengthwise like this, and then again. Then I'm gonna give them a quick dice. A couple tomatoes. Also just gonna give a quick slice down the middle. Some large chunks like this. Aubergine, same thing. We're gonna dice them. Just take the tops off, slice it just like that.
Look about that thick.
And for these, I usually take the skin sides down first, and then I'll slice these. It's easier to cut through the flesh than the skin. Dice. It makes it easier to have this tray for me. I like having all my prep right in front of me. Garlic, do as much as you like. Do a quick chop on these, quick dice. All right, so once you get this part done, I want to use this pretty much right away because the eggplant or aubergine will start to turn brown, so I want to get that sauteed. So I also have one more aubergine eggplant back there for the garnish that I'm going to save to cut up. And then I also have 1 potato we're going to add to this that we'll dice while it's cooking. All right, so we're going to get that heat on.
So I'm gonna add olive oil to this.
But you, if you don't want to use your oil, just don't add any oil right here. It can be done without oil. I'm going to add the onions. All right, so the onions are on the bottom, and then I'll just pile everything else on top of that. I'll just add the tomatoes and garlic on that.
So while that is cooking,
I have this 1 potato, rinsed, washed. I'm gonna dice it the same size as the courgettes and the aubergines and everything else in there. And the reason why I didn't do this first is because I'd have to put it in water, and I might as well just add it right to the dish. Now you could use sweet potato, you can use red potato, it doesn't matter what kind. Boom. Potato, 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 potato. Now we're gonna give it a stir. Now it seems like a lot, but this is gonna cook down, and we are gonna add the lentils to this. But I want a nice little browning on here first. Soft, gentle stirs.
all right, here's where I'm gonna start seasoning it a little bit. The more it cooks, the more water is gonna start coming out of it. The reason why I don't stir it right away is because I want those onions to brown on the bottom. I want to get that little caramelization. That's just gonna start building the flavor layers that we're looking for. And now as the eggplant and the aubergine, same thing. I gotta use one word. The aubergine, I think, sounds much better than eggplant. So the aubergine and the courgette, which is the zucchini, and the tomato, they'll just start to exude the water. And now it won't burn at all. It'll just start slowly cooking down. So I'm gonna add the seasonings.
Half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon
Of nutmeg,
3/4 teaspoons,
of allspice,
and then 1 big teaspoon, maybe 2.
of oregano.
Good tablespoon of salt right here. Some black pepper.
I blend coarse black pepper with fine ground black pepper.
Seems to hit more taste buds that way. So I'm gonna do about a good tablespoon here. A teaspoon of regular granulated garlic. Gonna stir that in. It's starting to smell delicious. So as soon as that starts to cook down a little bit, you'll notice it starts to stick on the sides a little bit here and there. Now is when I'm going to start adding lentils. It's the lentils with the 1 cup of water. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of water, so 3 cups of water to this. And stir it in. Once you stir that in, we're going to let it sit. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to lower the heat down to a simmer and let it simmer away. And we'll get working on the next part. Lower to a simmer. Cover partial on there. It's getting hot in here. So the lentils will probably take 15 to 20 minutes now that they're on the simmer. And we're going to make the top layer. So this recipe comes from when I was real young, when I was starting off. I worked in a Greek restaurant. It was one of the first restaurant jobs I've ever had. Started off as a line cook and worked my way up to be the chef of the restaurant part over the course of 4 years. Greek food was one of the first things I learned how to do. And this dish is definitely inspired by the moussaka we used to make every day. I almost forgot. I'm going to add 1 block of tempeh. So we're just going to dice that up and add it right in. Same size as the rest. Now this recipe is good with tempeh. You could use tofu, extra firm. I would use extra super firm. Or even Beyond or Impossible or any other of those plant-based meats, which I think are all fantastic and they all have a place. My regular diet will consist of more whole foods, plant-based style like this, but I do enjoy to indulge once in a while. 80% healthy, 20% wicked. This will give it a nice bite and some nice texture. And you can see this is cooking great. For a little bit more tomatoey, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. This just happens to be my toothpaste. Yeah. I gotta come clean. I messed up a couple times in this one. I'm sorry. Sorry, Frankie. I should have started off by frying that tomato paste with a little bit of oil and then adding the onions. I wasn't thinking. I was thinking about doing the video, not the actual cooking part. This is my biggest mistake right now, and one I'm working on really hard. The second one is I almost forgot the tempeh. Please forgive me for those, and if you can, fry the tomato paste first, because it just makes it so much better, like next level restaurant quality, and that's what we're going for. And I'll make sure to show that in an upcoming video that we're gonna do. Have an awesome day. Frankie, please forgive me. This is one of those meals, you know, it's not super fast like the last one I just did. This is more thoughtful. Great one for dinner party or a family dinner, even to bring to neighbors whenever. If they're having a special occasion, you could bring this because it takes a little bit more time. We're gonna make it in 2 parts, 2 stages. First we do the lentils, the veg and the lentils right here like this, and then we're gonna start on the topper. But I want this to kind of cool down before we add the top. Just comes out better from experience. You can whip it up, but if you want it to be done right, take your time with it. This is a fantastic meal prep, big dinner, family style, special occasion, catering, restaurant dinner. You could do it in little ramekins. I'll try to show a couple examples at the end. You can see this has been simmering a little bit. Very nice thick consistency, very meaty texturally. I'm just gonna taste the lentils, see if they're done. I want them to be like toothsome, they call it. It's good. And I'll just let it cool. Best habit I ever learned is clean. Clean up after yourself. You can always clean good. If you can't cook good yet, you can always be cleaning. And that's what good chefs look for. The polenta for this recipe, I'm gonna use a ratio of 5 parts water to 1 part polenta. Fine polenta. So 5 cups of water. Put that right on the stove. Bring it up to a boil. While that's coming to a boil, I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of garlic granulated and 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika. I also have, from that Nooch video I did recently, the garlic and herb. So this is nutritional yeast mixed with garlic and herbs. About 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, 3. And I have 1 lemon, and I'm gonna zest that right into it. So just take the skin on the outside with my little microplaner. Just go around the whole lemon. And then I will add the juice from the lemon. Cut the lemon in my trusty lemon juicer. Right in, pop it in, no seeds go in, and juice that bad boy. stir that in. Also gonna add about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more of vegan butter. Now, you don't have to add any oil or butter here if you don't want. Even with this little amount of butter, it's still healthier than the animal alternative. Now, just as that starts to come to a boil, a cup of polenta. Super fine. Start to whisk just a little bit in. Just making sure there's no clumps. Getting the sides. Lower it down to a medium heat. Just want to make sure it doesn't burn. And it thickens up pretty much straight away. And then I'll lower this down, medium low. And then we're just going to cook this out, stirring consistently for a good 4 or 5 minutes or so. And you'll see it gets really creamy. So if you want to make it even creamier, there's a couple different options we can do. I could add vegan yogurt to this. I'm not sponsored, but I could add some of this. This is really good, the Oatly Greek style yogurt or any other kind of vegan yogurt. And that would make it nice and creamy instead of milk. I could add a little bit of oat milk, which I'll probably do. I'll just add a splash and whisk that in. That makes it a little bit creamier. You could add more butter, of course. You can add as much or as little as you like. I have a couple tablespoons in here already, but you could add a little bit more if you want it more decadent. I consider anything that's not an animal product healthier, especially for the animals. So what I'm gonna add is some vegan cheese, and about a handful, any kind, any style, whatever you want, whatever you like the best. This is the only one they had at the store, so I've said in many videos, vegan cheeses still need a little bit of work, but as long as you can get them into a product like this, it just adds that creamy and decadent texture that I'm looking for at the end. And this will be perfect. Gonna stir that in. So I'll let this cook for another 5 minutes, just stirring consistently, always taking it down from the edge. Make sure it doesn't burn, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom, and it gets nice and creamy. A bit of olive oil to each one. And then I'll just wipe it, get all the edges. I do this mainly for peace of mind, and it's easier to clean up so things don't stick to the sides too much. So I do this with anything I'm doing a casserole with, whether it's lasagna, whether it's anything. All right, really key steps right here. Just taking a little bit of this polenta and adding it right to this mixture. Not too much, just a little bit, like about that much, maybe a cup. And what this is gonna do, as it cools, it's gonna help bind it together. Since I have so much of this, I can show you how I would do it at a restaurant. So this is how I would do, like, oh, my friends just had a new puppy. Oh, I'm gonna bring him this, yeah? Oh, you know, somebody, whatever you bring, neighborhood food. I would bring this for whatever occasion. And then for dinner parties, I have these cute little things, and I'm not sponsored at all. These are Le Creuset I got. So when you have a dinner party, cute. Even if I was doing no oil at all, I would still use this because it's a functional tool. Of course, I don't care on this dish because I added oil and butter to it. But if you are no oil and you're looking to cut your calories back like that, just think of using oil as a utility, as a tool, not as an ingredient. So I've filled these up about 3/4 of the way, all 3 of them. Now that was just 3 cups of lentils. Still have a little bit left over here. The tempeh adds a really nice texture. The flavors are really good and unique. And you notice I didn't use like as much when I was putting into them because they're all strong flavors. The cinnamon, allspice, a little bit of nutmeg, they're really strong. So I use them a little bit less than I would do normally with like garlic and onion granulated and smoked paprika. This right here will be delicious with greens. Now for as long as it takes me to clean up the kitchen, I'm gonna allow these to cool. So that wasn't so bad, was it? Working clean is a real sign of maturity in the kitchen and just means you have your shit together. You have your stuff together. You have your everything. You're in control. Pour it on top. I'm just gonna fill it up. Couple more important things. One, you wanna wipe off all the extra stuff on the edges because you don't want it to burn on there. Number 2 is I wash that polenta pan or at least soak it right away. Otherwise you're gonna have a heck of a time later on. And then these, now I would just let these sit and cool. So if I was gonna have a dinner party, I'd pop these in. When guests arrive, it'll be done. And then you wanna let it sit after you cook it. You gotta cook it for at least 20 minutes in the oven at 350, so like 185 degrees Celsius. But for now, I'm gonna let these cool down and set, and the polenta will set nicely. And then when we bake it off, everything will cook and start bubbling and get super tasty. And then we'll let it sit for a good 15 minutes before cutting the slices out of it. You can see, solid. Now I like to always do things on another pan just in case any spillover. This little one too. About 20 minutes, 25 minutes. All right, so I mentioned for a garnish, I'm gonna use this really cool looking aubergine. It only costs slightly more than the regular one, but I like the purple stripes. So I'm gonna heat up a pan. Top off. I'll take the bottom off. So I'm just gonna slice the skin off on that, and that'll stay flat like that. And then I'm gonna try to do it pretty thin, but thick enough so you can't see through it. Get to the last piece. It's always the hardest. A little bit of olive oil in the pan, just enough to coat the pan, the bottom. Salt the bottom of the pan here. And I'll have to do these in batches. So you could bake them if you want to brush them with oil and put them on a baking sheet, but I only have 2 racks in that oven. So I'm just gonna do it right on here. A couple minutes each side. I want them to get nice and brown and cooked through. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. A little bit of black pepper, dusting. Gonna wanna do that with all of them. And then when they look like this, and a quick rinse the pan. More a little bit of oil, just requires a quick rinse. It's hot, and then that's it. Ready for the next time. So this step right here, this is extra. It's just optional. So this is what I would do if I had a restaurant though, is have this as a garnish, and I'll show you how. Just take a paper towel, and then I just like to pat it down on there, and then I'll leave that paper towel on there. I want these to be pliable. We're just gonna roll them up. You could marinate these in a little bit of balsamic if you want, a little bit of garlic and parsley, whatever you want to do to fancy it up. Beautiful. Look at that. They look great. Take out the smaller ones first. I'll leave the big one in there for a little bit longer. Oh, look at this cute little baby one. Then we get the bigger one. Great. You can see it's starting to pull up from the side. Means the polenta's cooked nicely. So I know this is like a mouthful of molten lava right now, so I'm not gonna touch it. We're gonna let it sit for a good 10 minutes at least, and I'll probably dig into this little one and then figure out what neighbor I'm gonna ask to come pick up. If you get any volunteers, you know, write down in the comments if you would take this, if you were one of my neighbors. Free meal. Oh yeah, that baby's bubbling. Molten lava. Oh, I don't wanna spill it. Little roll-ups. A little chili pepper, and a sprig of parsley. Beautiful. And that's how I would serve this one. For the bigger one, this one would probably feed 3 people. It's still probably too hot to scoop out, but I will for the camera. If you want it to look perfect, like the photo on the thumbnail, Frankie, who are you growling at? Right now, this is just gonna be a gloppy gloop if I put it in a bowl, which I'm gonna do for you. But if you wanna make it perfect, let it cool down completely overnight, especially if you're gonna do a restaurant or if you're doing family style dinner, you can cut it into all the shapes and sizes when it's cool. That's when it's best. Once it cools down, it solidifies just like lasagna. I like lasagna better the next day. It's solid, you can cut perfect slices, and then you can reheat those slices. Let me bowl it up for you. Serve it with a nice salad, a little bit of greens, squirt of olive oil, pinch of salt, splash apple cider vinegar, a little black pepper. This is quick. Garnish. Of course you don't have to eat the chili pepper, but I will. A little bit of the parsley. Done. Gorgeous meal right there. Individual for this. Of course, I'll eat it without it first on this side. I'm gonna eat the garnish. Delicious. For the big one, because I know whoever gets this will have to reheat it, and that's good because it needs to set. I'm just gonna score it so they'll know where to cut. These are pretty big slices. You could go smaller, but this is all about eating a good amount. So 6 slices out of this. Yeah, it's a nice little presentation there for the neighbors. Yeah, I'll give them 1 chili pepper. Look at that. Beautiful. It's gorgeous. You've been such a good girl. Where's your hat? Where's your cute little hat? It's almost dinner time, but I'll give you this. If you like this video, please check out these videos over here. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being kind. Go get him. Go get him. Go get him. Go get him.